I'm Lounge Ronin Beatmaker, and welcome to Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. And on this episode, actually, before we get into it, please make sure to hit that like button if you are new to the channel. Subscribe and ring that notification bell. And make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts below and a hint of constructive criticism, as that will help me and the channel grow. So, a little fun fact: your boy Ronin is a hardcore lover of Star Wars. So, that love has died over the years. And, recently, Ahsoka ended with a season finale viewership of 829,000 viewers. So for a minute now, I think many of us who were Star Wars fans and not necessarily Disney Star Wars fans, as I'm now realizing that there is actually quite the difference between them. And this Ahsoka review is not necessarily going to be a extreme detailed review of the show. I'm basically going to give you a light review and criticism of the state of Disney Star Wars and what this show represents as a whole, from someone who honestly, who was a big fan of, Disney acquiring Star Wars. I had high hopes. I'm one of the few people out there who, and I don't even know now, actually. I would have to do a revisit, but I really loved The Last Jedi, and I thoroughly enjoyed The Force Awakens. And maybe, my enjoyment of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, it probably came from a different standpoint than most people, as I was kind of more looking at those films only due to a particular reviewer. Shout out to Urban Acolyte, aka Golden Bell Training. But his reviews and interpretation was more looking at the philosophical, metaphysical aspects of Star Wars in relation to Eastern storytelling. As we know, Star Wars has a lot of its roots in Eastern storytelling. You look at the Journey to the West stories, you look at, the Monkey King stories, those epic fantasies. Star Wars has more alignment in Eastern epic fantasies than it necessarily does with Western fantasy. Personal opinion, and what George Lucas has said, and just the interpretations, the dress code. You look at the Jedi, a lot of that stuff. You could say some of it has influences of Templars, but it's more in the vein of samurais. The way they dress, the way they conduct themselves. So when when Disney acquired Star Wars, I my love for Star Wars had been revamped. I started, delving into Legends material, and I started realizing, oh wow, there is some incredible content in Legends material. So I was really, really excited. One of my favorite series in the Legend canonical is Dawn of the Jedi series. I love that. The Knights of the Old Republic series with Zane Carrick. Shout out to Zane Carrick, my boy. I was a really big fan of that series as well, and I was a fan of, before it got canceled, the Anina Solo story, which took place 100 years after, or 200 years after, Return of the Jedi. It dealt with the great granddaughter of Solo. Great series. The artwork was wonderful. So I was really a big fan of a lot of the Dark Horse stories. I was actively trying to acquire all of the Dark Horse Star Wars, because to be honest with you, in my mind, and even at that time, until I learned later on, that I was under the impression that the Legends material was canonical to the Star Wars films, from the New Hope trilogy to the prequel trilogy. I was under the impression that Legends material was canonical. So I was actively seeking out all of that material because I wanted to build the timeline of material that I could read and think about and talk with. I was really a big fan. I even have the comic book series of the Star Wars, based off of the original screenplay by George Lucas, which is a really a fantastic read. And I that, excuse me, the cough. That artwork. I know some people might not like that type of artwork in the Star Wars miniseries, but I enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoyed it a lot. Apologize. I'm eating ice cream right now. I'm having my emotional wellness bowl of Reese's peanut butter cups ice cream. So apologize. So when Disney acquired Star Wars, I was like, oh snap, this is gonna be crazy. We're gonna get continuation of the canon, or maybe some. They might take certain aspects of Legends and use that as the reboot. Maybe the Thrawn series by Timothy Thrawn, the old school one. So I got really excited, and then Disney said, okay, we're gonna be starting fresh, and I was like, okay, all right, that's cool. Then I'm under the impression, oh, all right, so they're gonna probably cherry pick themes and ideas and story points from Legends, because there is a lot of great stories in the Legends material for Disney to really take a crack at. And then The Force Awakens came out, and I was like, okay, cool. Everything else and all that, I was like, okay, cool. The Last Jedi controversy. I'm not going to get into that. I'll probably save all that for another stream. I want to get back onto Ahsoka. So throughout the ups and downs and everything, I still had hope, even after Mandalorian season 2. And then the Gina Carano situation happened, and I pretty much, at that point, I lost faith. I saw what she posted, and I'm like, this is what she's saying is right on point. And they literally followed through on the post that she put out about what she was experiencing. So at that point, I was like, okay, I can't really support you guys. And then the Obi-Wan series came out. we're not going to get into that. Andor, not going to get into that. But we're going to get right into Ahsoka because I want to save my review of Disney Star Wars for another time. But I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of an overview of me and my interpretation going into Disney Star Wars. So, Ahsoka, right? It gets announced. And I was really perplexed because I'm like, why is it called Ahsoka? And at that time I was thinking, okay, is this going to be a show, what is this going to be focusing on? And then when I started hearing who was going to be part of this, I'm like, okay, why is it still called Ahsoka? So the show drops, episode by episode. And I'm sitting to myself, this show has no business being called Ahsoka. This show, honestly, this is how I think the show should have been called. All right. I'm going to give you my breakdown of what this show should have been called and how it should have kind of gone. And then I'll explain the clusterfuck that is Ahsoka. Should have never been called Ahsoka. It should have been called Rebels: The Search for Ezra Bridger. That's what it should have been called. Simple as that. New audiences, Rebels. What's Rebels? Go on to Disney Plus, type in Rebels. Hey, what's this show? Boom. So before, when the show was announced, it should have been called Rebels: The Search for Ezra Bridger. New audience members would be like, what's this? Who's Ezra Bridger? What's this show, Rebels? Because we have to remember, they made this show for hardcore fans that are left who love the prequel trilogy, the Clone Wars, and the show Rebels. And if you read the Ahsoka Tano novel, so the show should have been called Rebels: The Search for Ezra Bridger, because the show is literally about finding Ezra Bridger. It should have been called that. You would draw in the normies. Shout out to Nerderotic, Ryan Kennel, FNT, Shadowversity, Hell's Babyface, Midnight's Edge, WD Pro. I do watch those channels, so I want to shout out to those guys for, to give them credit for influencing and changing my perspective on a lot of things and educating me as well on pop culture and social justice warriors and all of that stuff. So I want to give them credit and shout outs because I do appreciate Nerderotic and Ryan and Friday Night Tights and all of them for opening my eyes a lot, really, to be honest. It would be wrong of me to not give them their credit. But, the reason why I'm saying the show should have been called Rebels: The Search for Ezra Bridger is because you draw in people who weren't as invested into Star Wars as many of us are. Like me, I was referencing Zane Garrick from, the Knights of the Old Republic, comic book run. Like I said, one of my favorite characters is Dane Galok from the Dawn of the Jedi series because he ends up being one of the main guys who creates, the Sith. But anyways, I digress. But the point that I'm making is that you then pique the interest of people who are only familiar with the movie trilogies and maybe might be familiar with some of Clone Wars. So you call it Rebels: A Search for Ezra Bridger. Boom. All right, you want to have Ahsoka in it. Cool. I'm going to be honest with you. Sabine Wren, does not have any force abilities. Ahsoka should have been training Hera's son and Kanan's son, aka Caleb Dune. Sabine Wren has no force abilities. So, and this is where you realize, and I give credit to the people I just mentioned earlier, in regards to me also realizing that not only does Lucasfilm disregard and contradict their own canon, Dave Filoni does that as well. And I think partially this was done to push the whole Force is female, because if you watch Rebels, you would know that Sabine Wren has no Force abilities whatsoever. In fact, when they were on Dathomir and they found the Darksaber that Maul had in possession, she takes it back or Ezra takes it back. Sabine realizes, holy smokes, this is the Darksaber, the the blade of Mandalore. And she's pretty much taught how to use it. And in that scene, which is a great scene, I know some people don't like Rebels. I personally really enjoyed Rebels. She is learning how to use a lightsaber. She doesn't know how to use it. She's not trained in how to use a lightsaber. It's not, you have to be someone who has to be trained by a force wielder in order to even be able to wield a lightsaber correctly in combat, regardless of whether or not you have the force. That just elevates your abilities. And so she ends up also getting Mandalorian equipment from I love this guy too, Fen Rao, who was at Ace Pilot from oh god, what are those destroyed moons? One of the territories of Mandalore. I can't think of the name, but he was part of the Protectorate. The Protectorate or the Protectors? I can't remember specifically their name. But he came to her and he brought her a bunch of old Mandalorian defense weapons that were used during the Mandalorian Wars and maybe the Jedi Civil War. But I'm also unfortunately conflating Disney canon with Legends canon, so I apologize. But he gave her, I think he said Mandalorian War, but it doesn't matter. He gave her gauntlets. One gauntlet was a shield used to that was strong enough to deflect lightsaber glances. He also gave her a sonic boom, which was like the equivalent of a force push. So he gave her, he improved her armament to allow her to be able to defend herself against, and at that time they were being hunted by Inquisitors. So he gave her the equipment that she needed in order to fight against force wielders. And you even get a fight training between Sabine and Ezra, and she starts using the new pieces of armament. And you realize, like, oh wow, the Jedi definitely had their luck cut out with them when facing against a well trained and well armored Mandalorian, especially a well trained Mandalorian who has anti force wielding weapons and technology. And so for me, that was a massive indication that, oh, this isn't canon to Rebels. That made me realize that I guess Filoni forgot that. Oh my lord. Sorry, I just got a crazy Text from my mom. Let's just say we spent 2 weeks trying to get my mom a new cell phone because her old phone decided to kick the bucket. And then all of a sudden, a week later, this motherfucking phone decided to be like, guess what? JK, I faked my death. Oh, Lord. This is crazy. Um, oh, sorry, I gotta respond to my mom because this is just crazy. But yeah, so she gets trained to use. Oh yeah, Dave Filoni in the canon. Yeah, so this is where I realized, okay, this is not canon to Rebels. So it wouldn't even be beneficial for new um new viewers to watch Rebels because they'll watch it, and even now, if there are people who followed through with Ahsoka and are still interested and want to learn more about these characters, they would go and watch Rebels and be like, wait a minute, Sabine Wren doesn't show any Force abilities. Why? Because Jedi can sense other Force wielders. And Kanan, at that point in time, was able to sense Ezra in the Force. This is when I realized, like, oh, we completely have forgotten the spiritual metaphysical aspect of what makes the Force so beautiful and important to Star Wars. In Rebels, in the first season, in the first episode, when Ezra's about to rob them, he's like, man, I sense something. I don't know what this is. And then even Kanan's like, wow, I sense something. They can sense each other. They don't know what it is, but they know that someone's around. It's just the Force is strong in this area. There's a presence in the Force. There was none of that indication with Sabine in Rebels, even when Ahsoka arrives in the show. Because even by that point, Ezra had already been training with Kanan, and he already had faced Vader. So I'm thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, like, this isn't right. This isn't right. This doesn't make any sense. There is nothing Force. She has no Force abilities. So that's when I realized, oh, okay. This is it. They're just making shit up as they go. They're not even gonna follow their own canon. So, like I said, show should have been called Rebels: The Search for Ezra Bridger. It should have had episodes should have started out with Ahsoka training Kanan and Hera's son. Or if, because it doesn't make sense for Ahsoka to be searching for Ezra. It doesn't make any sense. Better yet, switch it up. It should have started out with Sabine still trying to find Ezra. And she gets some kind of weird clue. Something happens, right? She runs into what it really should have been, right? Because you have the whole Night Sister thing, which still doesn't make any sense since the Night Sisters got wiped out, and then the whole Jedi Fallen Order situation. So really, to be honest with you, they should have never had Ezra and Thrawn go into a different galaxy. That also contradicts the canon because literally at the end of Rebels, they say nothing about going into a different galaxy. They go to beyond wild space, beyond the unknown regions. That's not in a different galaxy. The Chiss ascendancy is located in the unknown regions. What they should have done, right, is you should have had, Sabine with some kind of, satellite shooting out from oh god, I can't even think of the planet, Lothal, all right, looking for some kind of signal, right? And then bing, she gets a weird signal, but it's imperial, and it's beyond the unknown regions. Okay, so she gets this ping. She goes to investigate where the ping bounced off. All right, so she goes to this old imperial, satellite substation or whatever on a moon, on an asteroid, and she gets assaulted by dark troopers. And then she's like, "Wait a minute, something's going on here. This signal, it's reminiscent of she can't figure out what the signal is, but she gets the data core, she gets out of there. Boom, you jump over to Hera, and she is she's organizing her fleet. She's training new pilots. All right, and we see a little bit of interaction with the New Republic and what's going on, and how she's kind of established herself as this new general of this fleet, and everyone really looks up to her. And I'm gonna get into the individualistics first, but afterwards. But I'm gonna break down my of how this show should have gone. Right? Okay. She then gets a notification from Sabine. Hey, I need to see you. Come back to Lothal. It's important. All right. She doesn't even explain why. She's just like, get your ass back over here. And then, okay, boom, we flash over to Ahsoka, and she's training. And she's training. I don't even know what Kanan and Sabine's son, his name is. I honestly, I do not remember. But Ahsoka is training him in the Force, okay? And it's not going too well. All right? They're constantly butting heads. Occasionally the chemistry works, but they're still butting heads. All right. And she could even make a reference. He could make a reference. But why can't I train with Luke Skywalker? And Ahsoka could be like, well, because Luke right now is dealing with an important mission. Right. You can literally say that. All right, and that would be like, oh shit, Luke's dealing. What kind of mission is he dealing with? Right? And he's like, okay, all right, fine. And then Hera comes, and she arrives, and Hera's like, okay, hey, Ahsoka, we need to, I need you with me. Something's going on with Sabine. We have to head back to Lothal. She said it's something important. You could even make, right, if you wanted to, you could even make that the signal that she found could be like an old Inquisitor signal. Because we could also make and infer that the possibility that, you could actually add into it the Inquisitors, what's left of them, by saying there was a group or one or two that were with Thrawn, or that went to get Thrawn. I don't know, something like that. You could have like a weird thing like that. I personally would just say that it was like the Dark Troopers, and that a squad of Dark Troopers were trying to intercept a signal. They can't decode it. It's rebel related, but they can't decode it. All right. So Ahsoka goes, well, okay, well, where's oh my god. I can't remember his name. Zeb, yes, Zeb. They're like, okay, where's Zeb? And and she could be like, oh well, he's exfilling Callus out of an intel operation, and then boom, you go to Callus, and he's running and gunning from an Imperial remnant unit, and the next thing you know, Zeb comes out of nowhere, saves the day, and it turns out that they've been working together, infiltrating Imperial remnant holdouts on various backwater planets, and what have you. You know, it turns out they're part of the Rangers of the New Republic. Boom, you could tie that in. And then next, right? God, see, they should have hired my ass, man. I would have, man. If I told you some of the crazy stories, ideas, and plots I've come up for Star Wars, y'all would be like, bro, please just make that. So I continue, right? They pick up Zeb and Callus. All right, because remember, at the end of Rebels, Zeb and Callus become best friends, and Zeb takes Callus to the planet in the unknown regions where the rest of his species actually originates from. Because remember, Zeb's species in the core or the mid rim, his entire species was annihilated, and Callus was part of that annihilation with the disruptor rifles that pretty much disintegrated people. But anyways, so they pick them up, right? And then they swing over to Lothal. All right, and then it's like, okay, hey, we only got one part of the signal. We have a couple other places where we got to get the signal. It looked like it pinged here and here. And then it's like, okay, it looks like we got to split up. So then you have, Callus and Zeb going one way, and then you got Sabrine and Hera going one way, and then you got Ahsoka and Hera's son going another way. And they're like, oh, he can come with me. It'll be good training for him. It's like, okay, be careful, be safe. And then right along the way, right, everyone has to deal with their own little battles and personal conflict and things like that. And we could say, right, for Ahsoka and Kanan's son, right? They go to one place, right, and they get captured by pirates. They get thrown into a cell, and it turns out the cell also has, oh God, his name was right. Oh God, I'm gonna have to look him up. He's another. I love this guy. Oh man, what was his name? He was the pirate. He was in Clone Wars. Oh God, it's like on the tip of my tongue. Yes, Hondo. Yes, Hondo, right? So you have they get Ahsoka and Kanan's son, they get captured, they get tossed into a cell. It turns out they're tossed into a cell with Hondo, and the young kid tells him that my dad's a Jedi and his name was Kanan Jarrus and he defeated the Empire, and then he's like, oh my lord, and then it goes like, oh shoot. We're here looking for a signal. And, it turns out such and such has it. And, it could be any kind of character. It could be a new character. It could be a pirate that overthrew Hondo. And so, boom, it ends up being the whole gang is back together. Because, if you remember, Hondo was really loved Ezra. He wanted Ezra to join him, and they wanted to just go off and ransack the galaxy. So then you can have them together, right? And then everyone gets the signals together. They put the signals together, and it turns out it's Ezra's call sign. I forgot what his call sign was. And they figure out, oh, okay, this signal, it's way beyond the unknown regions. We need to find someone. We need to find a map, or we need to find a way, someone who knows how to get us there, right? Lo and behold, Hondo is there, and he's like, "Oh, wait, I know how we can traverse this. I know the coordinates that we need to get." And you could say then that the next, so the first part of the show, right, is establishing where everyone is, and then drawing everyone together. So you draw everyone together by searching for these signals. Okay, now we have the signals. All right, next, now we need the coordinates to get there. And then from there, you can have the fact that, okay, they're starting to get attacked. Hera and Sabine were attacked when they got their signal. And they got attacked by dark troopers, by death troopers, and same with Callus and Zeb. They get attacked by dark troopers, and then they're like, oh shoot, they're tracking us. Someone knows that we are onto this signal. All right, and so then the next part is finding the coordinates. So then that means, wait, so who sent these people? So then they have to find out who are the handlers of the dark troopers. And then they retrace those steps, and they're able to find this imperial remnant, right? This imperial remnant brigade. And one thing you could even add, and I don't think having the Dothmorian sisters was a good choice. It just doesn't work for Thrawn, because it just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. That's not his style of things. If you watched Rebels, he don't fuck with the Force. If you've read the new Timothy Zahn books, he was able to figure out that Darth Vader was Anakin. He don't mess with the Force. In Rebels, he literally tries to shoot the Bendu, and the Bendu literally disappears in front of him, and he starts laughing in the ether. So the Dathmor sisters does not work for Thrawn. That's not how he works. Okay, and so then you go to this Imperial Remnant outpost, and they they get there, they get the coordinates that they need to get back to go to find out where Ezra is, right? So they get the coordinates, and the battle ensues, and like some of the warriors that they're fighting, they're like wearing stormtrooper armor, but it's mixed with other types of armor, and they're just like, wait, what? Who are these guys? And some of them, they're not even human, they're alien, but they don't look like any alien that anyone knows. And then you could have Zeb say, oh well, man, that looks like one of the races from the stories of old, back from our old planet, and then you're like, oh, what's going on there? And then they're like, oh, that ends up being the last piece of coordinates that they need. And then they go to Zeb's home planet, they get the coordinates, and then boom, they get to beyond the unknown regions. And then they're like, wait, what the hell? And it turns out there's this, space anomaly. And there's this small little, satellite station. And at that time, right, they go to the satellite station, and it turns out that Thrawn is still active in the known universe, and he has been sending a signal out to a particular his various agents that are operating on this side of the anomaly, right? And so you have these guys on the other side of the anomaly working for him, and he's and then the group has to split up again. Hera has to go back to the New Republic, explain what's going on. This group, they go and try to find one of these they try to find one of the ships that's capable of traversing this anomaly. And might not even need to necessarily be a ship. It could be, a particular type of coordinates, or to make it interesting, you need a particular type of person to navigate this type of anomaly. And it could be a force user, because it could be very similar to what was going on in Timothy Zahn's, Disney books, where the Skywalkers were the force wielding children that navigated the Chiss Ascendancy ships. The ships used, it's kind of similar to Dune, right? They use these kids to like navigate this anomaly, and they realize, well, we either need the ship or we need the person who knows how to traverse this anomaly. So the group splits, and one group has to go and get the ship with a person who can navigate the anomaly, and then the other group heads back to the New Republic, but they're both getting tracked and attacked. And throughout that time, character development and revelations and all that fun jazz, right? Okay, boom, they get the ship. All right, boom, Hera gets a small fleet to join them to be able to navigate this anomaly, and to go get Ezra Bridger, and to also scout out Thrawn's plans. All right, and then boom. All right, there you go. First half is complete. That's the first half of Rebels, the search for Ezra Bridger. You could do that in 4 episodes. All right? That is 4 episodes you could do, an hour long each, with plenty of action, real life set pieces. It'd be amazing. Okay, let's jump to the second half. I gotta follow through. So, all right, second half, we meet Thrawn. Okay, we meet Thrawn, and guess who we meet? We meet Thrawn's personal assistant from the books. Damn, I can't remember that boy's name. Eli. I think his name was Eli. Yeah, it was Eli. Something Eli, or something like that. He was an Outer Rim boy. And we see him, and he's like, he goes up to Thrawn, who's like, he's sitting in he's standing, and he has this cape, and it's made out of fur, and his fur also has like tusks or something on it, and he's standing there with this cane, and it's got a kyber crystal on top of it. And his assistant comes in, and he's like, the verbatims have agreed to your demands. They will relinquish their armies to you. The planet is yours. And Thrawn's like, all is planned. And then we realize, all is going according to plan. And then you get like a flashback. And the rest of that episode is, you get that, right? All is happening according to plan. And then the other aspect, right? Because you see that. And then, Thrawn's like, okay, return us back to, Jeribian, the planet name, that they first, wound up on. And then there you see Ezra, and he's like, he's wearing, kind of like monkish, disheveled clothing. He's got a thick beard, crazy hair. He looks a little paranoid. And he's next to this little weird kind of satellite thing he put together, and he's just looking up, and he's just hoping, right? And and he holds on to, he looks at something, and then you get this, you get the flashback with Thrawn, and yeah, you then, you get Thrawn. It's like, okay, return us back to the planet. Boom, you head to the planet. There's Ezra next to his little satellite thing. And then there's like you hear a voice in the background, and it's like, do you think they'll come? And then boom, you get a flashback. And the flashback is the last episode of Rebels. The rest of that episode, this could be episode 5, right? The rest of episode 5 is all of the season finale of Rebels, part 1 and 2. Okay, 6, right, is what happens when Thrawn and Ezra arrive, on the other side of this anomaly. All right, and there you could have it that, boom, they arrive there. The Star Destroyers are incapacitated temporarily, and they're in atmosphere of a planet. Okay, you have a battle. Ezra escapes off the Star Destroyer. You could have it be some kind of epic, crazy thing where he jumps off, and Ezra has a strong connection with various animals. And as he's free falling off the Star Destroyer, he connects to a creature that he sees flying, and that creature saves him. And boom, all right. The rest of that episode is Thrawn looking at his what is my KIA? What is the status of my Star Destroyers? What's the status of the hyperdrive? What's the status of our shields? All of that fun jazz. And then him kind of assessing his current situation, and then sending out TIE fighters to kind of scope out the planet. Where are the life forms? Bada bing, bada boom. And you slowly see him, take over the local, warring tribes. And they join in with the Stormtrooper Corps, and at the same time, you see Ezra, battling the elements, battling the creatures, and things like that. And even at one point, you see he finds a Kyber crystal, and he meets, he stumbles upon some people, and they save him, or creatures, whatever. It can be something like that, all right? And then boom. Okay, we just covered 4. No, we covered 5. We just covered 6. All right, 7 and 8. All right, 8 or 7. They head over to the anomaly. The whole crew is ready to go. They jump through the anomaly. It's a cool scene, really reminiscent to when they traverse the anomaly in Rebels. Be epic like that, very reminiscent. Boom, they get over to the other side of the anomaly, and then holy smokes, there's it looks kind of like a Star Destroyer. It's like a copycat, put together, and part of the fleet, gets destroyed, and they have to scatter. And then boom, all right, they have to scatter. And they have to find the planet where Ezra is, and the fleet manages to get what's left of the fleet that gets to the planet. All right, they assess their situation. Sabine and Callus and Zeb, they go to figure out where the signal is. At the exact same time, you could have it that Ahsoka is sensing a disturbance in the Force, and she goes to investigate. The young boy wants to go, but the young boy wants to go, but mom's like, nope, you ain't going nowhere. All right, he sneaks off, follows Ahsoka. All right, and so they end up dealing with a Force user of some kind. And it turns out he's working with Thrawn. And then you also then have where Zeb and Sabine and Callus, they get ambushed by this group. They're fighting. They're caught up, and everyone's battling, and Sabine's, she can't reach, her blasters got knocked out of her hand. Ezra's lightsaber got knocked out. She's trying to reach for it. She was using it, not, and to be honest with you, in the canon, in the actual Rebels, she could actually handle holding the lightsaber well. But, she's not a Jedi. But she can wield it enough to get by. And so we see that she's trying to reach for it. She can't reach for it. And then, boom, the lightsaber gets flung out. Just as she's about to grab it, it flies out. Boom, gets into Ezra's hand. You don't know that it's Ezra. He's got a cloak on. Boom, he ignites his other lightsaber, and it's made with wood and old pieces of technology, and the kyber crystals exposed, and it's like almost kind of like flaring, and boom, he ignites his old one, and he just goes to fucking town. All right, using both of the lightsabers, just wiping out, just doing work, laying waste. All right. And then, he takes off his cloak. He's looking kind of crazy, a little disheveled. He can't believe it's who he's seeing, and then Sabine just runs up and just kisses him. All right. Because let's be honest, at the end of Rebels, Sabine was obviously starting to realize the feelings that she had for Ezra. All right. Ezra loved Sabine. He was obsessed with her. He wanted to be with her. And there you have that epic moment. He kicks ass. He saves the day. They embrace in a hug and a kiss. I miss you. He's like, are you real? Is this real? And there you have this moment. And Zeb comes in being Zeb. He's crazy. He's funny. He's goofy. Callus is like, well, it took you long enough to get here. Because Callus, he's a good guy, but he's a little callous. What can we say? And boom, the whole unit, they get together. And then at that exact same moment, Ezra senses and he's like, no. And then he realizes Ahsoka. Or no, he doesn't even say Ahsoka. He says, Kanan's son. He says his name. He hasn't even met him yet. All right. He knows. And then boom, he goes. All right. And then, he ends up finding, them, and it turns out, wow, they were close by, and he's like, you need to get away from that guy. I've been dealing with him. He's been hunting me. And you could even say that, he's from, an old ancient Sith tribe that got lost on the other side of the anomaly. You could make a reference to the lost tribes of the Sith. All right. And you're like, wait, there's more Sith out on this side of the anomaly. He's like, yes, but I don't know where they are. He was exiled. Okay, and then it's like, whoa, what's going on here? All right, and that could then be a threat for the future. And I mean, we're talking, that could have been the threat for the New Republic to face with Kanan, with Rey and all of that shit. But I'm not even gonna get into. We're not gonna get into that. But anyways, okay, they realize, holy smokes. Ezra explains, he's like, listen, guys, Thrawn has amassed an empire on this other side of the anomaly. All right. He's got his stormtroopers, but now he has, they call themselves the Storm Legion or something like that. The Thrawn Legion. They call themselves the Thrawn Legion. It's a mixture of old Imperial soldiers and soldiers on this side of the anomaly who have sworn their allegiance to Thrawn or have been defeated in combat, and they're like, he's got an empire over here that he's growing, and there is an old Sith guy here who's been working with him, and you kind of realize, oh shoot, and that's episode 7. All right, episode 8, okay, is. The episode 8 is them figuring out, okay, how do we deal with Thrawn's empire over here? It's small, right? But how do we prevent it from getting any bigger? How do we prevent him from getting on back to the other side? If that's his plan. And so, episode 8 can be, Thrawn arrives, he meets with the Force wielder. They're like, listen, this is what's going on. This is what we need to do. This is my plan. I need, I need a force. I need a force user. And then they're like, and I need the child. The child would work. And they're like talking about Kanan's child. It's like, okay, we'll get the child. And do you remember Thrawn had his bodyguard, that like ape-like creature that could turn invisible? They sent him to go and kidnap the child, and that's the end of season 8. That's the end of episode 8. Is a child gets kidnapped on that side, and it's like, wait, what's the child going to be used for? Boom. That's season 1 of Rebels: The Search for Ezra Bridger. Right there. That's it. 8 episodes. Right there. An hour long each. With all of that, you could do it. You could do it. Tell me that that's not a dope story. Or at least a cool story. It doesn't have to be dope, but at least tell me that's pretty cool. I think it's not too bad. So I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. Like, you could do that. You could easily pull that off. And it would be a great show. It'll be a great show. That's all I'm saying. All right, so that's what Ahsoka should have been. That's what it should have been. Okay, so let's get back into Ahsoka. This show. All right. So I already explained and acknowledged. Okay, it doesn't make any sense for Sabine to be force sensitive because we know that she's not force sensitive. That's just the facts. Actually, to be honest, the last force sensitive Mandalorian was Mandalore the Great, who he was the first and only Mandalorian to become a Jedi, and he created the dark saber. He was the only one. So we know that she's not force sensitive. Okay, boom. All right, and this whole lightsaber thing. We saw what happened in Obi-Wan. Apparently now, lightsabers are the equivalent to, getting stabbed with a butter knife. All right. I don't know why we do know why they're pushing that whole agenda. Force is female. Apparently, women's abdomens, are as strong as a Super Saiyan, whatever. She's not force sensitive. The whole stabbing thing is ridiculous. Anyone who's seen the show, you know how atrocious this show is. So the character of a Sabine in this show, Ahsoka, the TV show, that's not who Sabine is. That was how she used to act in season 1 of Rebels, but by the end of season 4, she had solidified herself in regaining the honor of her house. She had shown that she could be a capable leader when needed, and she also proved that she was capable of relinquishing her leadership when necessary. So by the end of Rebels, she was a well-rounded character who really came into her own and was very mature. So turning her into this weird, like, hybrid feminist, bitch, I excuse my language, but like, it's inappropriate for who she is. That's not how Sabine by the end of Rebels carried herself. Hera, I don't know what they did with Hera. In Rebels, she had charisma, she had soul, she had femininity. All right, even in Rebels, she embraced her femininity so much so, all right, that she was getting hit on by Lando. All right, to the point where she punched Lando in the gut. So she was the mother of the group. She embraced that feminine energy of being the mother of the Ghost crew. So to take that, to strip away her femininity, to strip away her motherly characteristics and her energy and her leadership qualities, ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Totally, that's not the same character. I don't know why Zeb is not in the show. I would assume it's because even though he's an alien, he's a male alien. I don't know why Callus. Well, because he's white and he's a good guy, and in that show, all the white guys are the bad guys. So that would be a problem. Hondo, why is Hondo not in the show? I mean, he was instrumental in Rebels. Where the fuck is Rex? He was part of the Rebels crew. Where is Rex? He was alive. He was still there post. He was at the Battle of Endor. He was down on the crew with Han Solo. They, retconned that character and made that character Rex. So he was there. Why isn't he part of the crew? So, you could have made in the show, you could have made a reference to Rex and say, Rex couldn't join us, because he's prepping a contingency for in case Thrawn gets onto the other side. You could do something like that. You could have made a reference like that. And then next season you could have had Rex in it. You could have had Tamora Morrison in the show playing Rex. And, the Night Sisters, I don't know why Filoni, well, we do know why, because of his wife. And I plan on doing a little bit of a deep dive on his wife, with consent, of course. You're more than welcome to watch, Filoni. You're more than welcome to watch. But anyways, I digress. The Night Sisters, no point. Thrawn doesn't operate with the Force. He doesn't like the Force. That's not his style. The style that I showed is he's a conqueror. He's a strategic genius. He would have conquered the planets in that system, and that would have been how it worked for Thrawn. Also, Thrawn is a physically imposing individual. All right, he is not a man who just retired and who's been delving deep into pina coladas. I guess I understand why they wanted the voice actor, but you should have picked a actual actor who has the physical composure of Thrawn. That was not a very intimidating Thrawn. He didn't act like Thrawn. There was no strategy. There was no intimidation. Nothing. I don't know what that was. The Darth Marion witches. No point in having that. Like I said, you have the death troopers, the zombie troopers. Okay, cool. It didn't work though. They have lightsabers, but they can't work against zombies. I'm not going to get into all the stupidity of that kind of stuff in the show, but, to kind of, wrap things all together, this show should have never been what it is, because this show is not canon to anything. It's not even canon to the current canon. So I don't know what this show is. I guess you could say it is, a really bad version of Star Wars fan film. I mean, that's the only way you can equivalent it to. I've watched better Star Wars fan films than Ahsoka. So and it's we're realizing Dave Filoni has no real writing skills. He has no real creativity. He just steals and reuses. I mean, why is Lord of the Rings in Star Wars? Okay, cool. The mother, the daughter, and the son. Listen, I could explain how all that ties in, and we could do a whole breakdown on that and how you could actually make that work. But I'm not here to do that. Unless someone wants it in the comments section, I'll do that. But other than that, I ain't gonna waste my time doing that. I already gave you guys enough to work with as it is. So I don't know, the like I said at the beginning, only 892,000 people watched the season finale. If you think that there's going to be a season 2 of Ahsoka, you're hilarious. All right, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And if it does happen, I don't know why. especially now with everything that's going on in Hollywood, which I plan on doing a stream on that. So I don't. There's no way to make a season 2 of this show because in the entire show there was no plot, there was no character development, there was nothing. This was really just terrible fan fiction made into live action. The fan fiction story I just created would be way more interesting, entertaining, and intriguing and thrilling than what we got. So, my whole, and my whole thing with Ahsoka is that this is not. I don't even. Is this even Disney Star Wars? I don't know what this is anymore. But the way they have abused the philosophy of the Force is irrepresentable. It's just disgusting. The Force now, I guess is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll do an entire live stream just talking about my thoughts on the Force and Disney and all that kind of fun jazz. But yeah, this show is not a good show. Spoiler alert, I never watched the show. But I've seen all the clips and all the reviews. So I don't know what Disney has. Well, they ain't got nothing. I don't think there'll be a season 2. If they announce a season 2, I doubt it will be Filoni as the showrunner or the writer. He might be executive producer, but he might not be the one writing season 2. With everything that's kind of going on right now with Hollywood, I'm going to do another live stream on that. But Star Wars, it is dead. Disney Star Wars. Star Wars is not dead. It's alive and well. It's thriving. You got the Legends comics. You got plenty of stuff there to read. You got the OT trilogy. You got the prequels. You got Clone Wars. But this is it. This was the final nail in the coffin, and the TV show The Acolyte is the dirt that is poured on the coffin of Star Wars. So, that's it for my Ahsoka Ronin review. I highly recommend everyone out there. Don't waste your time on the show. Cancel your Disney Plus subscription. And, go read a book. Go read some comics. Go read some novels. Go look for other genres out there to watch, shows. But yeah, don't give your money and your time to Disney anymore. It's not worth it. You're better off, watching, Star Wars fan films. That has more heart and soul. Or create your own. I mean, there's no problem with creating your own Star Wars. It seems like that's what Disney does. They're just living in their headcanon of Filoni verse. This isn't the Star Wars verse. This is the Filoni verse. We're not watching the Star Wars verse. This isn't the Star Wars universe. This is the Dave Filoni universe. So, I don't expect there to be a season 2. What they'll probably do is they're gonna say, season 2 is put on hold, or they're gonna come up with some kind of excuse. They're gonna delay it until it becomes a memory hold. And then no one thinks about it. So I highly recommend people out there, look for other forms of pop culture entertainment that's positive and influential for you and good for you and entertaining, and not full of Marxist, socialist, fascist, grooming ideologies. It's out there. You might have to do a little work, but it's out there. And may the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Ronin and you've made it this far, please hit that like button. If you are new to the channel, subscribe and ring that notification bell and share out this stream to any like-minded viewers. And please, leave a comment with your thoughts on Ahsoka and my perspectives on the show. And while you're at it, sprinkle in some constructive criticism, as that will help me and the channel grow. And until next time, stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.